I woke up with two empty bottles of wine at the foot of my bed and a big red stain in the bed from where I'd spilled the wine out of my glass. And I just kind of surveyed the scene there. I was like really bummed out, really depressed. I didn't know what to do.
Alcohol had been hiding in the closet. He was successful on the surface, but in reality, he had just blacked out. 4 years ago, David, an American flight captain, found himself waking up to two empty bottles of wine and no recollection of the night before. Little did David know, this moment would be the catalyst to change his life forever. David and I got started working together shortly after, and since that day, not only has he stopped drinking alcohol, but everything in his life has changed. His wife, Susan, says he's become a completely different person, kinder, sharper, more present. So what finally broke David free from 5 decades of drinking? And how did he go from willpower failures to what he calls unconditional victory over alcohol? Let's dive into David's incredible transformation. You do not want to miss this. Ladies and gentlemen, today we've got David joining us. So David has got an amazing story. David is one of my long-term clients. So we actually started working together just under 4 years ago. 1 week to this day, it'll be 4 years. He's not drank. When we started working together, he was a captain, so he was a top level pilot in his career. You know, achieved the peak of being a pilot, absolute beast. And then he was transitioning into retirement. He wanted to stop drinking, and he's just kicked ass for the past 4 years. So we did an interview when he was 11 months sober, but today's coming on because it's going to hit 4 years. He's in Hawaii, so he wanted to do this video while he was in Hawaii so he could show this beautiful background and share, the amazing things that happen in life when you don't drink. So David, thanks for coming back, and can't wait to do this again with you.
Well, I'm really appreciative to be with you, Leon, because I've been amazed at the last 4 years. And mainly, I've been amazed at the tens of thousands of people you have helped. I mean,
No, this ain't about
I,
me.
it, well, I understand that, but I, to this day, I watch your YouTube videos, and what I enjoy the most about watching them, first off, you're a great communicator. You hit it hard, and it's clear, it's understandable. You've broken it down to the simplest terms. What I love about watching your videos is reading the comments. And when I see the people and their response and how much they your message resonates, like it did with me 4 years ago, because I woke up 4 years ago. I woke up in a hotel room overseas, and what I saw was two empty bottles of wine
Oh
and a
wait,
big red stain in my bed. Okay,
let's come back to that. Let's go back earlier. So let's
sure.
start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning, David. We'll come to the big shebang
Yeah,
later. But just start at the beginning.
yeah.
Like, what was your relationship with alcohol like at the beginning, and how did it come into your
Well,
life? And yeah,
right, and that's great. So I've had a 5-decade association with alcohol. It was interwoven into my life from a very young age through my parents. Uh, I sort of liken my dad to a version of Don Draper in northern Minnesota. He was a very successful businessman. Uh, he was married, 3 kids. He was living the dream life, and he was at the top of his career. Uh, and he was a community leader. He was somebody that people respected. My mom as well. Uh, but they drank very frequently. They had cocktail parties. They had a lot of friends, and they set the example for me of what life should look like in terms of alcohol. It was
mm,
relaxation. It was going on vacation. It was having a cocktail with dinner. And in reality, it was binge drinking. It was um, a lot of trouble in his life that didn't come to pass till later on. Some years later, they got divorced. He still lived a pretty good life uh, until he got very ill uh, in his mid 60s. And I remember one of the last times I was with him, he couldn't walk more than about 50 feet without having to sit down. And he was 70 years old. And he was a very robust man during his time. So that's what I grew up with. And from a very early age, I started drinking, started binge drinking. But I had it under control, like my dad. And I proceeded with a career in aviation as a pilot. I became an airline pilot. I became an airline captain. I was married, two kids, and exterior wise, I was successful in that way.
Okay, so you had this association with alcohol that came from your parents. You were drinking. You achieved a level of success, and everything was kind of under control and whatever. But when did you recognize that alcohol was actually causing problems in your life?
Um, well, let me say from day one, I recognized alcohol was causing problems in my life. I recognized that my dad had a drinking problem, my mom had a drinking problem, and but um, I think that I, you know, was under the illusion that it could be maybe controlled or that, um, there was a way to be normal about drinking. And, and that was absolute fantasy from reality because of how we've been raised to think about alcohol, not just from our parents, because they had to learn it somewhere too.
Mm-mm.
Um, and it's a societal thing. It's a cultural thing in our country, in your country of origin. Um, but the point at which I started to think that, okay, I need to actually do something about this other than just, on a temporary way, like quitting for a month or something like that, was probably in my early 40s after my dad passed away. He died at 71 after being very successful and then not as successful and then just watching his life deteriorate. Um, and he never really recognized it. Um, so I thought that there was a way for me to be different from him and different from other people and get it under control. Uh, I also believe that there was only three ways to quit drinking, and that was through AA, these traditional ways that we know about, AA, rehab, and maybe willpower. And I really was, my dad, by the way, Leon, you may not know this, I may not have told you this, but he did 6 weeks of a rehab program. And he went to a California facility. It wasn't Betty Ford, but it was a California facility. And that lasted for him all of 2 weeks. And I was with him the day he started drinking again. He was on vacation in the Caribbean, and
Mm.
he told me, he said, "Well, I think I have this under control. I went 6 weeks without drinking, and so
Mm.
really I knew a long, long time ago drinking was a problem, but I didn't do anything about it. And when I finally did start to try to do something about it, it was too late for my marriage. My career fell apart through no fault of my own, but through a bankruptcy of the company I worked for. I worked for a major airline, went out of business on April 3rd, 2008. I was about 40, maybe 50 years old. 51, I was 51 years old when I lost my job. And, at that time, alcohol was still a big part of my life, but my wife of that time decided she didn't want to be married to me anymore. And, I did try to quit drinking at that time, and I was successful for about 3 months, through the use of willpower.
Mm-mm-mm.
And, and then as time goes by, as you talked about many times in your videos, as time goes by, it fades.
Mhm.
So I had to put my life back together, and um, it was a challenge. I will say that one of the biggest things that helped me was my faith. A significant part of helping me come back from a devastating time, the most devastating thing that could have happened to me, um, losing my job and my marriage, uh, and then the other thing that happened to me, wonderful thing that happened to me, was I met my wife Susan, and she has been supportive of me. So when we first got together and uh, became a couple, drinking was still part of my life. We enjoyed going out and having a couple glasses of wine. Susan, to this day, she enjoys wine. She doesn't. She will drink one glass of wine. She can limit
Mhm.
herself. There are people like that, Leon. You and I are not such people, but there are people like that. Um, but um, when we did go out and try to relax with drinking, having a couple glasses of wine, for me, it always led to drinking more than her and binge almost every time binge drinking. And sometimes the evenings did not end up well between us. There were no big problems, but uh, uh, when you're under the influence of alcohol, there's something we used to call liquor talk. I'm sure you're very familiar with liquor talk, and it's not good. And then it always wound up waking up the next day feeling terrible.
Mm.
And you got through it,
Mm.
right? You got through. You did your thing. You had to maybe eat a lot of carbs, drink a lot of Diet Cokes. Some people drink
Mm.
Mountain Dew, you know, energy drinks, what have you. Um, and then there were several days of what I now know to be like feeling depressed and being having to recover from a heavy night of drinking is nobody's idea of a good time. So uh, we went on this way. We got married, and we've had a wonderful marriage. Susan's been wonderful to me. And as I approached retirement age, there's mandatory retirement in my industry, in the airline industry in the U.S., 65. I
Oh,
was,
because you'd sorry, so you'd hit this rock bottom, you'd stopped for a short period of time, you did start drinking again, remarried, and then you got
yeah,
back to work.
yeah,
But then and then it's
right.
just kind of been like a little bit up and down for like the
Y-
next kind of 10 years.
yeah. So after I lost my job, I found another job, a new job. Not as good a job, but I was very happy to have work. And I was a pilot for one of the largest charter companies in the U.S. We flew mostly military and other government people. We did football trips for college teams for bowl games. We were a passenger carrier. I was flying mostly long haul over water, flying to Europe, the Middle East, Asia. Um, and just everywhere. And the drinking um, continued on at the pace that it was, and maybe even increased somewhat in my last 10 years of aviation. because I had a lot of long layovers, and
Mm,
then when I'd come home, Susan and I'd be home for a couple weeks straight at a time, and we'd go out and we generally have a very nice time going out. Um, but it when I get home after going out, I would drink more wine. I want to drink more,
yeah.
and so at any rate, that's where I got to the point where actually in 2020 I was became very serious about quitting drinking. That was a year before you and I became associated. And I can tell you a little bit about what happened that day.
So we'll come to that. But then, so this year where you started getting serious, what shifted? What made you say, all right, it's time to change?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I think I had truly had enough. It was, as I said, a 50-year association with alcohol, 5 decades of drinking. I'm embarrassed to say this. The first time I drank was when I was 12 years old. Uh, And so uh, I just, I just couldn't go on this way. I couldn't go on with this mental frame of mind, which
Mm,
was very, very down on myself. Um, I was, I, you know, I like to joke, Leon, that I've never been called a sunny optimist. I'm a realist. So I'm not a negative person. I'm just a realist. But I think I started having some uh, more negative thoughts
mm,
um, about life and myself, and um, I wouldn't even call myself depressed. But after I would drink, I just would wake up feeling weak and afraid,
mm, 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 mm.
and I I didn't want that anymore, and I didn't know what to do about it. So I in 2020, a year before you and I met, I decided to do something about it, something I'd never done before, which was not use willpower, but to talk to a counselor. And remember, this was during COVID, so you
Mhm.
couldn't meet with a counselor. You, I don't know what the rehab facilities were doing. They were probably all shut down. This was March of 2020. I went out, purchased the big book, which you know what that is. That's the AA Bible, they call it. I read it cover to cover.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things I liked in it. There's a lot of things I didn't like, but for the most part, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what
Yeah, yeah,
people do. I
yeah.
talked to a counselor a few times via Zoom call, um, and I told people that I quit drinking. So that was a change, so that really indicated I was serious about it. When you start
Mm,
telling your family and friends, okay, I'm done,
mm,
there's some accountability there.
mm,
Um, and, but it really amounted to another willpower attempt
mm.
because I couldn't go to AA meetings. I didn't really want to. The counseling was, it was okay. I mean, I appreciate the guy trying to help me, but all we're talking about is all I could think about was drinking when I'm talking to him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 100%.
And so after 3 months, um, I went back, but I still was in the frame of mind that I'm done with drinking.
That's nice.
If that makes sense. I'm sure it does to you.
Yep.
I I was still searching. I was reading books. I was looking at ways to get out of their vicious circle that is alcohol and its effect on us. Um, And it's not just the addictive nature of it, it's also the mythology that's associated with alcohol, that, it's a way of socializing with people. I am, again, I'm not an extrovert. I'm not an introvert either, but I'm not an extrovert. Um, and so being around people isn't always the easiest thing for me. So, that's part of the mythology of drinking, that it's a social activity. And man, if there's something that we can do to lubricate a social event, we're going to do it.
Mm.
Because, and except it doesn't work. It's a myth. So
All right, so hang on. So let's go back. So you'd got 3 months sober, but it was a combination of reading AA stuff, doing a few meetings, working with the counselors, but it was all nicely packaged up willpower. And
yeah,
then, but the mindset shift was there of like, this needs fixing. So then there was now a 9 month period before we got speaking. So what happened in those 9 months?
well, I don't remember when it happened, when I started drinking again. But it did happen. And, uh, I had a higher level of consciousness of my drinking at that time, of,
Mm,
you know, wanting to quit. But, part of the, challenge in quitting drinking is that we have arranged our lives around drinking. We don't, I think I realized it actually. I mean, my mentality was, well, let's see, I'll be home on 6-day layover with Susan. We're gonna go to our favorite bar, and we're gonna on this night, and then, maybe a couple nights later we'll have make a pizza and have some wine, and if we're gonna go on vacation, okay, so where can we go where we can have fun and have cocktails and things like that. So you kind of range your life that way. And then you think about, well, if that's not in my life, how am I going to feel about my life? Am I just going to miss it? Am I going to spend the rest of my life being what's known as a dry drunk,
mm,
where you are just bummed out that you can't have a drink like everybody else, and you have to avoid doing the things you love to do? And, uh, well, the other thing is that we bought a boat down in Florida, and boating and drinking is always sort of associated with each other. And I spent many years boating and drinking. Um, and, you always wanted to get tied up at the marina by 5 o'clock, because that's when the drinking started.
mm,
Um, and, you know, forget about the sunset, forget about the beauty. You're going to find your beauty in a glass of liquor.
mm,
And, again, back to the mythology of it. But so I just went back to drinking after a few months in 2020, and on into 2021, until the day that I discovered Soberclear, May 17th, 2021. That was the day. So that was on a long layover in Eastern Europe. Uh, and I woke up, as I told you the story, I woke up with two empty bottles of wine um, at the foot of my bed, and a big red stain in the bed from where I'd spilled the wine out of my glass. And I remembered where the first bottle came from, because I had bought the first bottle down in the bar the night before, with and having a few drinks with friends. Uh, and but then when I woke up and saw a second bottle, I could not remember where that second bottle came
oh,
from. It had to be room service, right?
yeah.
Um, it's like, okay, let's keep drinking. And I just kind of surveyed the scene there. It was like, I was like really bummed out, really depressed, really, feeling horrible. And of course, you've got, a spike going through your head from the headache, uh, from drinking, crappy wine the night before. And, I didn't know what to do. I just really didn't know what to do. And I got up and, got on my computer and I got on YouTube and YouTube, how to get sober, something like that. Uh, you showed up. So I started watching your videos that day. And I remember binging on your videos that day. And I just couldn't believe the things you were saying. They floored me. Uh, you were saying things like quitting drinking is easy. Quitting drinking is fun. I'm like, this, well, I was like, tell me more because I was very skeptical, of course. And, you had a very powerful delivery in your message. And when you started talking about reframing how we look at alcohol and how we have been lied to, um, about alcohol. The truth has not been told about it. And I realized very early on watching your videos, Leon, that you were a truth teller in this scenario. And, uh, and then it didn't, I don't know, I think I connected up with you. Was it a month later? Maybe it was a month later when I decided to, uh, sign up with Soberclear program. Um, because I think people can get a ton out of watching your videos. Uh, and for some people that might be enough, but for me, that wasn't going to be enough. Uh, I needed to put some skin in the game. And, that meant being part of the Soberclear, uh, uh, program that you put together. And so you, on your videos, you invite people, to call you. And it's like, well, okay, I guess this guy is not just somebody on YouTube. He's actually a human being that I can have a conversation with. And I wanted to hear what you had to say, uh, person to person. And you were a guy, an Englishman living in Thailand.
I remember exactly where I was sat when I first spoke to you, and I was sat in the Koh Samui during COVID. We were paying next to nothing for this villa because nobody could get into Thailand. So the landlord was like, "I'll take anything," and it was like, I don't know, 80% discount. I remember exactly
Yeah.
where I was sat when I spoke to
Yeah.
you. I remember it.
Right. Right. And, so again, I think I knew a lot, when I talked to you. I mean, I'd watched a lot of your videos um, and I just knew that this is something I had to do. And, so I was getting to the point, in 2021, I was, just, uh, just a year from retirement. And I, we had a dream of doing, a boat trip called America's Great Loop. And I knew I couldn't do it if I had, if I had this brain fog that I'd been living with for many years. And, the brain fog it's terrible when you're drinking. But the next day when you wake up, you still have the brain fog, and it takes a day or two before the brain fog goes away. I don't think it really completely goes away, at all. But, uh, so I knew that if I was going to have a decent life in retirement for the rest of my life, I'd successfully completed an airline career. I knew I was going to get through it, and, be a retired airline pilot versus being a doing it for a living. And it's like, I just didn't want to live this way anymore. And so the combination of watching your videos and then joining Soberclear, that did it for me. I was done, 100% done. The war was over, and I had unconditionally defeated alcohol. It, you know, there were no terms. There were there was no surrender terms. There was no um, anything other than complete defeat of alcohol in my life, and never going back, never wanting to go back. Now, um, the first year or so is was very different than what it is today for me. So the first year came with a lot of temptation, a lot of urges, um, but I had reframed my thinking. I understood without any question what alcohol was. It's poison. It does nothing for you. And I know that's your mantra, but let's break it down for a minute. It's poison. It destroys your body. More importantly, it destroys your brain. It unplugs all of the wires in your brain, so you can't think right. You have flawed thinking, and this is the way you think about drinking. Now, one of the things that really helped me, Leon, was you sent me some study material, some books, some things in which I read and went over, wrote down some things. The thing that really helped me was when I really unpacked my belief system of alcohol and how much of it was false.
Mm-mm.
Things like alcohol relaxes me. It did nothing of the kind. It didn't relax me. Alcohol makes me more sociable. It didn't make me more sociable. I'm way more sociable today than I was
Mm-mm.
when I was drinking. Um, I used to tell myself that I could quit any time. No, I couldn't. That I used to tell myself that nobody knows how bad my drinking is. Everybody knew how bad my drinking was, but I told
Mm.
myself, oh, nobody knows. Cause a lot of times, like that night in, overseas, I drank some wine with some buddies and then I went back to my room. Why? Because I wanted to drink alone. I didn't want people to see me drinking that much. But, you know, um, so at any rate, after I quit drinking, after I made the decision to be part of Soberclear and I was completely done, I started just waking up feeling great. I mean, the mental clarity, the energy that I had, I started doing things, accomplishing things in life. For example, I got my uh, Mariners captain's license, which took 3 or 4 months of really hard studying. I got, you have to take, I think it's 4 different tests. I got, 98% on the 4 tests, the average of all 4 tests, 98%. Um, I got to retirement. I retired. We did our America's Great Loop boat trip. We accomplished about 4,000 miles of that, going up from Florida to the Intercoastal Waterway, uh, up through the Hudson River to the Great Lakes, all the way to Chicago. Um, Amazing trip, 5 months on the water. Every day I had to wake up and plot out our trip on our boat, and it was
Mm.
challenging, very challenging. And we'd be on the water some days, 12 hours, and you have to have your head in the game. So I did that. Um, and we got done with that. I had to get 2 knee replacements, and then I started back into aviation. I decided I wanted to what I'll call reverse engineer my career, which is I retired as an airline captain flying wide body jets across North Atlantic and the Pacific. I wanted to go back and get a reinstatement of my flight instructor certificate so I could teach other pilots flying small airplanes. And so I had to go back and relearn a lot of stuff that I hadn't had to know for 40 years. And it was actually very challenging. It took me about a year and a half to accomplish that. And so now I'm back to being a certified flight instructor, which I was about 37 years ago, flying single engine airplanes with mostly young guys who want to have a professional career. And I feel like I have the opportunity to share my experiences as an airline pilot and my experience in aviation, um, and and be that person that can help mentor and help pilots uh, start a
Mm.
career, just do it for fun.
So now this is awesome because you stop drinking, you're sharper, you do the boat license. What was it called again? The boat thing
So
license.
Mariners captain's license.
You did this, which
Mariners,
required study tests. You were
yeah,
mentally sharp for that. Then you've
yeah,
got this trip where again you're mentally sharp. You have to be on it. You do this amazing achievement, 4,000 miles, and now you level up again. And now imagine the alternative path. Imagine if you kept drinking. You're now like becoming this person of value that goes and hands down all of these years of experience to the new generation. And man, I'm so proud of you. Like you're just awesome. You've changed it all
thanks.
around, and you've yeah. Show the hat, by the way. It's not in the screen. It's not in the frame anymore.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. This is a National Association of Flight Instructors. I'm a member, very very proud member of the National Association of Flight Instructors, uh, and uh, yeah. So after the first year, things started taking a. I mean, it just wasn't really noticeable until more recently, but now I realize that after, the initial 12 months of giving up alcohol, not only was my mental clarity better, obviously, and my energy was better, all of these things, but I really just started to form myself almost as a different person. I feel like I have transformed from kind of my old self to a new self. And I've realized this uh, really in the last 6 months, but that transformation really started kicking in after 12 months of being sober.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I, I can't really, Leon, put my finger on it, but I mean, it's like my brain is working so much better than it did even a year after giving up alcohol. The initial part of being sober was great. It was exactly what you said it was. It was easy and it was fun. I mean, no lie. Uh, and I'm not saying that there's not challenges, and I'm not saying I live the perfect life. Although I'm sitting here in Maui, to crying out loud, I'm living a pretty good life. Uh, I don't believe I'd be here in Maui. I'd be somewhere. And I probably live an okay life. But you said it best. And I don't think you said this in your initial videos, but somewhere along the way, you started talking about living your best life. And that resonated with me. And I know that resonated with a lot of people because I've seen comments. Uh, and this is how I think of my life now, is focused on living my best life. I don't focus on alcohol at all. I don't think about it. It's um I I like sharing my story about it because I'm hoping it helps other people feel okay about giving up alcohol, quitting alcohol. Um and I have no shame in it. This is one of the hardest things about being addicted to alcohol too, and I know you know this, Leon, is that there's a lot of shame associated with that addiction. One of the things you taught me was that we don't have to be ashamed about our addiction. This drug is designed for us to be addicted to it. The culture is telling us every different way from it. I could say many different ways that but we all know, from movies to other things, that alcohol is being peddled to people at a very young age, I might add. And, uh, like I said before, the law of primacy is an actual learning law that first things learned are the hardest to unlearn. So what Soberclear does is it overcomes the law of primacy, that we have to unlearn this thing and we have to learn the truth about alcohol. And you call it, I guess you call it reframing, alcohol into, okay, we think it's this, but reality is this.
Mm-mm.
And when you see it for what it is, that's what makes quitting drinking easy and fun. And the fun part is waking up in the morning feeling great.
Let's talk more about this. This is awesome. And but you said, because the last time we did this call was 11 months sober, but
Yeah.
you've just said something that I never heard you say before. You feel like you've created this new self, this almost like this new identity over the past 3 years.
Yeah. Right.
So let's talk more about that, because I mean, 12 months is an amazing achievement, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that are watching this thinking, yeah, what does happen long term? So what do you mean by this? Like, unpack this if you can.
Yeah. So I think that, like I said, it's difficult to articulate it. It certainly is something that I feel inside. I think other people can see it in me. Um, Susan, I asked Susan a little while ago, I said, what do you see as different? She says, you're much kinder than you used to be. Um, I think, what I did with, my aviation career, re-engineering, it was really difficult. Um, and I'm not sure. Oh, I know I couldn't have done it if I was still drinking, but again, it's really hard to articulate that. It is something that I feel very strongly inside that, it's like, I don't know. It's like when I first quit drinking, I could do the multiplication tables in my head. Now I can do calculus.
Yeah,
And
so it's really funny that you say this, because when I hit 12 months, that's when I started talking about not drinking on YouTube, and I became, what I've become, right? And it
so
happened at 12
brilliant.
months. So that's
Yeah.
very interesting that you're talking about this. And do you know what I think happens? Is I think you've become the person you always were, that alcohol was stopping you from being. Like, this is who you truly are, and you've always been. It's just alcohol just almost creates you into somebody else that, is dulling your vibrations, is dulling your energy, is dulling you. And then after 12 months, it sounds like that was the breakthrough. And now you're the real David. You're who you always were.
I think that's spot on, Ian. That's exactly spot on. Um, uh, there's a character in the book Lord of the Rings. Um, he's the king of this kingdom, and you can see it in the movie. And he's under control of this other person who makes him just a tiny fraction of who he was as a great king and leader. And when this other entity disappears from the scene, um, all of a sudden his face changes. All of a
Oh
sudden
yeah,
his
I
whole
remember.
demeanor changes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And that is a transformation. It doesn't happen that fast, but
Yes.
it does happen. And it has happened to me. And, you know, the, the thing that's really powerful about this is that, and we see it all the time on our Slack group with guys on there like Jeff, uh, S- Steve on there. We know they're never going back.
Mhm.
None of us are ever going back, pure and simple. Um, and it's not about how many days you're sober. We're not climbing the mountain anymore. We're not one day at a time. Uh, we're done. And you just have to talk to these guys and you can hear it in their voices. It's very powerful to listen to. Um, and, uh, it, it's, I, 4 years ago, May 17th, 4 years ago, I, I'm like, this can't be right. What you were saying, it just didn't seem like it could be right. This could be easy. It could be fun. You're never gonna, you're never gonna look back. You're just gonna be glad you did this. And, it's like, no, I don't think that's the way it's gonna be, but it has. You were right. It's been great.
I warned you. I warned everybody. No one believes me.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Well,
this,
I mean, after what we've been told by,
yeah.
all these so-called experts, uh, in fact, um, I was, uh, I was told by my very best friend that, you know, oh, this can't work. It won't work. And he went to it through a rehab program. Now he's coming around to realize, you know what? And he, asked me to talk to another friend of his and, you know, there's a lot of people out there. I don't care what path you take. There are many paths to sobriety. There's no one perfect path for everybody. Um, and this is one that can work, uh, for people that are motivated. I was very motivated. I think Soberclear is works really well for professionals, people who are, um, goal oriented, because I
Hmm.
was goal oriented person. Um, I I was, you know very much achievement oriented in my life, and so people like that, I think Soberclear works great, but it's not for everybody.
Mm-mm-mm.
And I'm not here to put down AA or rehab. There are people that works for. People are on a different, you know, um, part of their journey, a different spectrum, I guess. And for me, uh, there's an old saying, Leon, that says when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Well, actually, I was ready about 10 years before I, found you, but, but you were,
I was still drinking then.
you were still drinking then. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But, it's been a great relationship for me being part of Soberclear. It's something that as long as that's going on, as long as there's a group of people that are associated with Soberclear, I want to be part of that. It's not because I'm in recovery. It's because
Mm-mm.
I'm recovered.
Heck yeah.
And I want I want to be an example to anybody else that wants to be recovered and done with alcohol and then, you know, spend our time encouraging others to do the same. And it is happening in the world. You know this.
Mm.
Um, uh, I firmly believe we're never going to be rid of the alcohol, but people are seeing it for what it is increasingly. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, I was talking with a friend. He's a professor, and he teaches about political science and public health. And he actually messaged me the other day saying he was doing a lecture on how alcohol companies manipulate public perception. And what they do, one of like the tactics is they put all of the responsibility on the individual. You drink responsibly, right? You moderate your drinking. You have the recommended daily allowance. This ain't our fault that we sell a drug if you can't control it. And yeah, people are starting to wake up. Listen. I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to be like tobacco, right? Where it's just totally socially unacceptable. But I think things are moving in that direction, and I just think there'll be a slow decline. But actually, that's actually not true. Like if you actually look, like sales are up, so it doesn't actually make sense. So I don't know what's going on,
Well,
but
that could be because prices are up too, but
good
there's a
point.
lot of things. Yeah, but it's probably long after we're around. We'll see what happens, but
Yeah.
at least we're at a stage where there is the opportunity to see messengers, powerful messengers, delivering the true message. And you have been a powerful messenger delivering this message. And I mean, it's undeniable that what you say is exactly correct. It's poison, and alcohol is just a very, very destructive um, uh, drug
Mm-mm.
that is affected. I mean, there really isn't a person in the United States of America that hasn't been negatively affected by alcohol in one
Mm.
shape or form. Not
Mhm.
one person. So, this is my wife, Susan. We're here in Maui, celebrating her, can I say it, honey? Sure. 70th birthday. The big 7-0. She doesn't look it. She looks about 35. Right.
Yeah, amazing. That's amazing.
But I told you originally, Leon, that two things got me through these last few years. One was my faith, very, very important, and the other is Susan. And so I was asking Susan what she's noticed since I quit drinking 4 years ago.
A lot. He's much more considerate and kind to people. I mean, he was always kind, but he's more considerate, and he's he went
I
5 months.
was a better boat captain.
Definitely, he navigated us 5 months on our boat,
Yeah.
over 3,500 miles, without having to drink.
Yeah, that one.
With the docktails, we had our little mixture of Pellegrino with a touch of juice.
Right.
Very refreshing.
Yeah.
So, but yes, he's a different person, and it's improved our marriage.
Yeah.
And our relationship.
For sure.
Thank you, Leah.